Hey folks, I'm here to do this is Pam, Lady Digger in PA. I'm here to do my video blog this evening, and it's the 2nd of October 2017. I'm not going to focus on me again. I'm wild and crazy. I'm out here doing metal detecting and a little bit of working in my flower beds here. Just trying to clean things up for winter. Sun's starting to go down. It's Gets down a lot earlier now. You know what I've been thinking about a lot? My childhood, of course. Who doesn't when you get, up in age in particular? You start thinking about the end of your life. You start thinking about the things that you did and were they worthwhile? I think we can all say we have regrets. And regrets are okay, but something I've struggled with is staying in them and feeling kind of beaten down sometimes. You can't do that. Now I'm saying that, and I'm telling myself that. This is the old cedar tree here in the front of the yard. This thing's got to be 100 and some years old. Probably was here when the original house was. We decorated. My granddaughters and I came out here and decorated it for fall, sort of. Oh, and I can see here there's a hole. You know what this probably is? Moles or chipmunks. I don't know. I think chipmunks do bury into the ground. And I have seen chipmunks here. We've had a lot. Anyway, here's my lovely cedar tree. It kind of split in the middle. And some of it did come down at one time, but didn't hit the house. Anyway, I'm just thinking about the childhood that I had, which was pretty good. Had a good dad, good mom, and a lot of, we had aunts. It was just my sister and I. My mom was an only child. Another hole here. Another chipmunk hole. But anyway, my mom was an only child and my dad just had a sister. So we didn't have a whole lot of relatives. But we did have, we had my Aunt Betty and Uncle Ed. We had my Aunt Jean. Well, she wasn't really an aunt. She was a friend my mom went to Drexel College with, and they were good friends. Aunt Jean and Uncle Joe. Then we had Aunt Emmy and Uncle Paul, but then they got divorced and Aunt Emmy married Fred. Anyway, and they had 2 daughters and a son, and my cousin Ross died when he was 16, complications to hemophilia. So anyways, I'm going to stop for just a second and show you my beautiful pear tree. It's ancient. This thing is ancient. Got a lot of holes in it. I might go around the front and show you too, but anyway, I want to get back on track here. You get sidetracked sometimes, and that's typical of me at times. But anyways, yeah, so we had cousins. We had Aunt Betty and Uncle Ed had Rick and Bruce. And I remember growing up, my grandmother, my Nana, that was my mom's mom. I loved that woman so much, but I was kind of nasty and did things I shouldn't have when I was younger, stealing from her and stuff. And that's one of my regrets, because she loved me no matter what I did. And I know that, well, anyway, I'm not going to go into that. But that's a special thing when somebody can love somebody, even if they've done, they do things that are not up to par. But anyways, yeah, Nana, my Nana, she used to brag a lot about Rick and his good grades in school, and oh, could you just get good grades? Could you study hard like Rick? And he got all A's. And I'm like, oh gosh, I wish I could do that. But I don't know. I never was a super student. I didn't care. My mind was on 1,000 other things other than schoolwork. Like what I was going to do, things I'd like I like to write. And things I like to write about. And my friends, of course. I wasn't a popular person, and I wasn't non-popular either. I wasn't into the druggies. I wasn't into the troublemakers. I was just there, Just I'd say a C student. And that was my own doing. But yeah, that used to upset me because I wish I could have gotten good grades, but I just didn't take the time to apply myself. Here's my pear tree. Sickle pears come from it. This year we got some, but they dropped off pretty quickly. There's chipmunk holes. Wow, that ground is hard. We haven't had rain for like 2 weeks. Had a little teeny bit the other day, but nothing to speak of. Here's an old wheel I found once. Here I am, Pam. Get back to what you're saying instead of sidetracking about everything else, right? Is that what you guys are saying? Oh goodness, you're gonna learn that that's me sometimes. I just get so many things in my mind at once, and I want to say them all, and of course you can't do that. You have to kind of keep them in sequence and stick on the subject matter at hand. Well, anyways, that's my thing about school. So if you're a young person and you're not really taking the time you ought to study, my advice is to maybe consider studying. Maybe consider listening in class. Maybe consider taking notes in class. Not notes to your friends. Notes, you know, on the topic that you're studying. Because it will pay off later. You'll remember things. That was the thing with math and like algebra and geometry. I never caught on to it because I never paid attention. And if you don't pay attention to some things in some subjects in school, then you end up getting kind of lost behind. And that's sort of what I did. So that's one of my regrets, is not studying in school, not paying attention, not applying myself, as they would always say. When I talk to my guidance counselor about my future, it's like, I have so many things I wanted to learn and do, but it's like, I wasn't really sure what. And then I had a boyfriend who's now my husband of over 42 years, and I didn't want to go off to college somewhere and leave him. So after high school, I started a horse farm, and never saved money. You know, that's a whole other topic here. I just kind of did in the moment and didn't think too much about the future. But that's a common thing, I think, with so many. Well, let's see, what other regrets do I have? Well, I got married when I was 20. My parents wouldn't give us a wedding. Of course, you know, they disapproved anyway because I was supposed to go to college and do all this. I did commute to college for 2 years on and off. First thing I took, I was going to go into archaeology, so I took all the basic stuff for that. You know, the introduction to anthropology, the basic English Comp 1 and 2, and I got all A's and all that stuff. Well, anyway, sometimes I didn't feel like going to class, so I didn't go. And of course, in college, they don't care. You know, it's your dollar, not theirs. So I didn't do super well in that, and then I decided, hey, I'm going to maybe think about police science. Because the stupid thing is, I was really good at target shooting. I had done super, super well in high school in the team. I was in another group, and I was shooting targets and even looking maybe into the Olympics down the line with the .22. But anyway, that never happened. So let's see, what did I do? After that, I started the horse farm. I didn't have a nickel to rub against a cent, you know. And a year later, our daughter came. We got married in January. I got pregnant. No, excuse me. We got married in August. I got pregnant in January, and we had her the following August. That August. And she's a joy. She's 41 years old, and I love her to death. And she has her own 2 children now. However, I wouldn't, you know, have replaced that for anything. But I should have pursued a career prior to having children. That's one of my regrets. I should have finished college, should have gotten, at least gotten settled with some kind of a job or career of some sort. I was a housewife, stayed home with the children, which I felt I should do. My mom did. She went to college, got a degree. And my dad worked. He had a good job, though. He had his own business. And they're savers. I was never much of a saver, and neither was my husband. And that's another thing that I would recommend to people that are still young, is don't rush into getting married and getting pregnant. You know, you can do that eventually. But, you know, look into what you're going to do. Maybe something, you know, that you're interested in. Because you can't get by life without having, you know, an income. So that's my other regret there. Aside from that, there's other things which I'll bring up in the future, but I just wanted to share what I'm sharing here tonight because it's on my mind. Here's my little quaint home. Let me just tell you a little bit about that real quick before I close. We bought this house in 1988 in this property, which is like all up in here. There's some here. We've got land way, way back, which you can't see. We've got land over here. We did the horse thing here for a while too, and horses is like pouring money down the drain. So we just have the one, which is just, you know, basically a pet. Rosie's a pet. My husband bought her for me for Christmas one year. A guy was getting rid of his horses, and we were taking in horses as a rescue, and we took in several of his, and he wanted her to, you know, he wanted money for her, so my husband bought her for us, and for me in particular. But anyway, we bought this place in 1988, and it was a shack, a 4-room shack. It came across the street here. There was an old fallen down shack. This building, which is our home now, was put here in the 1930s. There's a stone behind, underneath the floor in the back room. And it was a big working farm prior to that, back in the 1800s, early 1900s, mid-1900s. And I met the fellow that lived here as a child. He stopped by when we had a yard sale way back in the early 90s, I guess. And he was in his 70s, and he said that what happened was his mom was cooking, and the stove chimney caught fire. And this house burned. Or not this, the house that was on this foundation, which you can see on the other side. There's stone foundation, field stone, if you went down into the cellar, which one day maybe I'll show you. It's kind of creepy down there, kind of dirty. It's dirt floor, very old and primitive. Anyway, there's a building over here, and they put that building on the foundation, which is this building here, which was just a, I think he said it was a chicken coop building, or an outbuilding of some sort, like I guess they used it for chickens. Anyway, we moved here, and we bought this place for $31,000. I remember $31,500. And it came with the 17 acres. It came with the rundown shack, which the roof was leaky as anything. Since then, we were blessed to be able to put a metal roof on and finance that. That's taken care of now. And we've done some repairs as we could and made the place livable. It's an old place. We never had the money to have a septic put in, so we have an old cesspool, which under the grandfather clause is over here, is usable and permittable. We don't have a drilled well. We have a shallow spring, which is over here too, but back further on the other side, and there's a runoff like a creek there. There were actually 3 springs here. 2 of them I guess aren't in use or dried up or whatever. I haven't looked because it's hard to get back there now. And then there's ours, which is a shallow spring. So yep, in the summer we gotta be really careful if it's too dry. When we had the kids, the 3 kids, and even when we were doing all the horses, 2 years, the spring did go dry for a temporary, you know, just for a short time. At that point in time, I had to bathe, and the kids, my husband was working away, which he did for 20-some years. Over here, before this house was built, it was all vacated. Nobody lived there. There was nothing there, no buildings on it. But there's a pond that was put in. And we used to take our towels, our soap, our shampoo, and trek across the field to take a bath. And it was rough. It was rough. But anyway, this is our home, and God's blessed us with it. Might be old and not modern. Even inside, it's not modern. We have an old cast iron tub, clawfoot tub as our shower and bath. And we have the old sink in the bathroom. We only have one bathroom off the kitchen. And then we also have a cast iron sink in the kitchen too, which was originally the original one that came with it when this house was put in place. We moved in, there were mice, droppings and mice. It was dirty, it was primitive, as I said, very primitive. But as I said, it's God's blessed us with it. And my husband's 66, I'm 62, so I'm sure it'll last us the rest of our lives here. We scrimp as much as we can to be able to pay the mortgage still. And we've refinanced a few times to take care of like the roof and some other things. So anyways, I have probably bored some of you to death, but I want to share a little bit more about my thoughts, feelings, and all that interesting stuff about me. Thanks again, folks, for taking the time to stop in here and listen to me and watch. Like I said, I'm not going to focus on me while I'm talking. It's kind of creepy, you know. I said, I've been out here working, my hair's a mess, my makeup's come off, and I don't look like, you know, I'm not a fashion model, in other words. Anyway, I got a hole over here I'm going to dig, and with my shovel here, and see if there's anything there in the hole interesting, and I'm going to go in and get our dinner for my husband and myself. Thanks again, folks. Signing out, and I'll catch up with you soon. Thanks for taking the time to look. Bye-bye.